First of all, why visit Socorro? Socorro, and by the way, we use that as the kind of collective name for the island group. There's actually a total of 4 islands, 3 of which are frequently visited by liveaboards. But there is one of those islands specifically known as Socorro as well. But we're going to do an overview, also when to go, what time of year, photo opportunities, what you're likely to see, the various liveaboard options, and it is very much a liveaboard type destination. Photo workshops for both 2016 and 2017, and travel specials. We've got some great specials coming up, and also a chance for you guys to ask questions as well. So get right into that. Why visit Socorro? Well, it's a unique and a very attractive place. It's again, they're isolated, remote islands, way out in the open ocean. So there's no convenient land access other than the islands themselves. So it is a liveaboard type destination. But because of they are so isolated, they tend to be natural magnets for marine life, in particular for big animals. It's also there are unique ecosystems there, which is with some endemic creatures as well, which is part of why they have the nickname Little Galapagos. And there are quite a lot of similarities in terms of the marine life and creatures that live there as well, because not all the Galapagos Eastern Pacific destination, but in particular, the Socorro Islands are for big animals, incredible rays, dolphins, various species of sharks, including some that you don't typically see at other dive areas, different fish, again, including some that are not usually seen by divers, including even huge yellowfin tunas, and being out in the middle of the open ocean, it's the kind of place that almost anything can come along. Almost nothing that couldn't possibly. Also, as part of our group, so you have a chance to dive with one of our photo instructors, including the April 19th to 27th of 2016. Our store manager and very accomplished photographer Kelly Dickinson is going to be leading the photo workshop. We also have another workshop next year, which will also be escorted by an experienced photo instructor. When to dive the Socorro Islands? Basically, it's a kind of a wintertime destination, and not that it couldn't be dived year-round, but getting the best possible conditions, least chance of storms, and so on. The sea basically is considered November through May. Again, it's the best conditions, and that is also when the boards visit there. So, but anytime during this is typically excellent. Visibility varies widely. It is often very, very clear. Can be over 100 feet of visibility, and often is. Not always. There are occasions visibility is quite limited as well, but there are always good things to see there. November and December typically can have somewhat lower visibility due to higher influx of plankton, but that brings with it its own rewards in that the big filter feeders, not only the mantas, which are found more or less year-round, but whale sharks, which are not so common during the other months, you have a much better chance of whale sharks around November and December. So that's an incentive to perhaps plan your trip for earlier in the season. Water temperatures, I'd say not quite tropical, but still very, very comfortable. In the wintertime, 70 to 74 degrees Fahrenheit is about average, or 21 degrees Celsius. During the fall and spring, a bit warmer at 76 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, or 24 to 27 degrees Celsius. Exposure protection, very much an individual thing. There are some people who would probably be comfortable in a 3 mil suit during the warmer months. Personally, I would go with a 7 mil full suit and at least have a hood with you. Better to have more exposure protection than you need than not enough. But it can be on the cool side, and also especially if it's breezy, again, better to err on the side of abundance there so far as neoprene goes. Where in the world is Socorro? Well, it's Eastern Pacific. Again, it is a possession of Mexico, but it's far offshore. As you can see, way out, kind of in the middle of nowhere, almost due southwest of the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula, or Cabo San Lucas. So it's about 24 hours travel time average with most boats from Cabo San Lucas to the nearest island, Socorro's, which is San Benedicto. Travel times, of course, depends on where you're starting from. In the U.S. already, it's really very convenient, especially if you're on the west coast of the U.S. Just a short flight down to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Otherwise, if you're coming in internationally, probably travel by way of Los Angeles and then a short connecting flight to San Lucas. There are daily flights. The trips do embark and disembark in Cabo San Lucas, and it is normally recommended that you plan to arrive the day before the actual departure, just to make sure you get a chance to get settled in, get a good night's rest, and so on. And approximately 24 hours boat travel to get to the islands. And just to have a look at some of the rewards there, this is the reason that we do this trip: big animals in general, and in particular, giant mantas. This is arguably the best place in the world for giant mantas, certainly one of the very best and one of the most reliable. And I think almost anyone who's been there would agree, not only is it great in terms of abundance and likelihood of encountering and frequency of encounters with giant mantas, but almost certainly the friendliest mantas that you're going to encounter anywhere. I've been very fortunate to encounter mantas at a number of different places around the world. I had always heard that reputation about Socorro of these super friendly mantas, and indeed I was there just this last March with a group, and it certainly lived up to that reputation. It is amazing, these huge, gentle, friendly animals. They really have nothing to gain from the encounter with us humans, and yet they seem to be curious about us. And as long as the humans are well behaved, they seem to swim right up and check us out, and really seem to enjoy our company. Again, I'm not really sure why, but it sure is nice that they do, and just providing amazing photo opportunities and just wonderful encounters. As you can see, this is a fisheye lens. And by the way, big kudos to many of the photos in this webinar were provided by trip participants on the trip that I was leading in March. And as you can see, some very talented photographers here are enough to contribute to the use of their images. You can also see how very close these animals are coming. If you think about the fisheye lens, it's making the subject look smaller and further away than it really is, and yet it's still filling frame. So these are big animals. They're at least 12 feet in wingspan, some of them 15 or 17 feet, or possibly even bigger. And they tend to on these pinnacles and seamounts, and they return time after time. It's usually not just a passing encounter, but many times they'll be hanging around pretty much for the entirety of the dive. Another thing that really is unique about Socorro, it's one of the very few places where you have a good chance of encountering wild bottlenose dolphins underwater while scuba diving. And that really is rare. That is very few other places in the world where dolphins want anything to do with divers. Most of the time, they're really very shy around, especially around scuba divers, and won't come anywhere close. But there is a spot of dolphins there in the Socorro Islands that seems to be getting more and more friendly as the years go on. So as far as I know, only really started with any consistency a handful of years ago, but it seems that they've just been getting more and more approachable and really seem to enjoy interacting with the divers. So it's not at all unusual to be enjoying an encounter. As you can see with this photo, already a manta ray, and then you have dolphins show up on the scene. Sometimes very close indeed. So, we had actually one magical moment where several dolphins swam up, and one of them just went kind of head up vertical in the water and then just looked at us and kind of slowly sank down and checked us out, and they really seem to be genuinely curious about us. Dolphins are only one of many attractions there. In terms of marine mammals, there's a possibility of even bigger and much more impressive animals, humpback whales. Unlike the dolphins that are there year-round, humpbacks are more seasonal. They tend to be there during the winter months. I would say January through March are probably the best time in terms of the peak season for the humpbacks, but they typically do stay around well into April as well, and they are abundant. In fact, I have also done dedicated humpback whale trips in places like Tonga, where there's an abundance of humpbacks, and I wasn't expecting that much in terms of humpbacks at Socorro, because it's not really what the place is most famous for, and I couldn't believe the number of whales. We had humpback sightings every day, multiple sightings all around the boat, not necessarily showing up during scuba dives. Again, like dolphins, that's typically quite rare that they would be tolerant of scuba divers and the noise and bubbles that they create, but there are occasions when they do actually show up among the divers. Much more common is to see them from the surface, or if there's general interest among the group, it is also possible to, say, skip a morning or an afternoon of scuba diving and dedicate the effort to possibly swimming with the whales. So certainly some great opportunities there. This, as you can imagine, truly an amazing experience if you're lucky enough to actually be in the water with the whales. This was actually taken during our trip, and while we did not see humpbacks underwater every day, there were opportunities for that, and we did dedicate one afternoon to trying to swim with them and had some success. So again, just one of the many attractions of the Socorro Islands. But more than anything, I'd say it's the cartilaginous creatures, which includes the rays and the sharks that have made the place most famous, including the possibility of schooling hammerhead sharks. These are scalloped hammerheads. They're, in spite of looking rather small in the photo, they are large animals. They're typically 8 or 9 or 10 feet in length, and sometimes you see only a few here and there, but there is the potential for seeing dozens, if not maybe even hundreds of them. Typically, they don't come that close, especially in those numbers. We did see one massive school like that way off in the distance, so chances are not necessarily high of being surrounded at close range by hammerhead sharks, but I'd say chances are very good you will at least see some hammerheads. Much more reliable are the white-tip reef sharks. They are abundant and very approachable, not the least bit shy, especially at places like Roca Partida, where they like to snuggle up on some of the ledges, and sometimes you'll see up to 18 or 20 or even 2 white-tip reef sharks all lined up, kind of stacked up against one another, all snuggling in the kind of crevices or ledges and so on during daylight hours when they're sort of resting. At nighttime, they tend to be a bit more active, but in daytime, they're very approachable. And whenever you're diving, there's always a good potential for schooling fish action. And this is part of what just makes it so lively and entertaining to dive. There's not only the big animals, we like fish much of the time. And that is particularly true of Roca Partida. We'll have a look at that dive site above water here in a minute, but this is an isolated pinnacle way out in the middle of nowhere. It's remote even when compared to the Socorro Islands, but being a small pinnacle surrounded by very deep water, and it's sort of a natural gathering point for marine life of all kinds, including schooling fish action. And there are some colorful reef fish there as well. Socorro is not one of those destinations that's known for critters, and not particularly known for colorful marine life, but there are exceptions. Obviously, one of them is shown right here, these clarion angelfish. Beautiful shot by Pedro, who was part of our group. More commonly, you see 1 or 2 at a time, but every now and then there's a gathering. Also, the scythe butterfly fish, I believe, or I guess actually barber fish in this case, but they're a member of the butterfly fish tribe, and quite often seen in schools, but very, very friendly and and curious. Also, some of the most beautiful triggerfish I've seen anywhere. I believe they're gilded triggerfish or red-tailed triggers, typically found in the open water, but close to these rocky pinnacles. Creole fish, they're a schooling species that it's not at all uncommon to be just surrounded by. There's also some very interesting topography there with pinnacles and spires and ledges and swim-throughs, as we see here. And some natural hiding places for schooling fish and other marine life. And potentially beautiful sunsets as well. Another really nice thing about the Socorro Islands is, although you will typically see some other boats out there, there are relatively few boats for a large area. So many times you will have an anchorage all to yourself. This is Roca Partida. We had mentioned that earlier. Again, just a small pinnacle, large rock. You can easily swim around it many times during one dive. It is a true magnet for marine life, and I'd say safe to say among the world's top dive sites. I think anyone who's been there would agree with that. And being a pinnacle, it does break the surface. It's excellent multi-level diving. Nice things to see it at pretty much every depth level. Now just getting away from the marine life a little bit to talk about how we get there and where we live when we're in the Socorro Islands. It is a liveaboard destination. There's really nothing much on land. They're small islands. There is a ranger station on Socorro Island itself. But aside from that, really not much civilization or facilities on the island. They're quite desolate, but there are some very beautiful and capable and comfortable liveaboard boats that give us access to these islands, including the Nautilus Explorer. This is a beautiful boat. I've been on board actually for another destination at Guadalupe, but very sturdy, extremely seaworthy vessel, overbuilt, and the few liveaboard companies that really builds to international standards in terms of seaworthiness and so forth. It has 8 lower deck staterooms with ensuite bathrooms, 3 superior suites, 1 premium suite. It does support rebreathers, and a very large and comfortable boat with some of the creature comforts that you might enjoy. There is a hot tub on the upper deck. Certainly a very popular spot. We have a quick look at some of the typical staterooms here. Very professional staff as well, very well managed operation. Actually, the new sister ship of the Nautilus Explorer, a larger vessel, the LME. And she also has 8 standard staterooms in addition to 1 quad and 6 superior cabins. Takes a total of 28 to 30 guests. It does also have Wi-Fi, 3 large inflatable skiffs, and once again, rebreather support. Same company as the Nautilus Explorer, and again, a very well-managed, well-run, and overbuilt, very sturdy, comfortable vessel. So the staterooms, salon, and so on. And another favorite of ours, the Rocio del Mar. Rocio is a large boat that takes a smaller number of guests, max 20 guests. And I just had a fantastic time on board during our trip in March. Very comfortable and a well-designed boat. Probably what stands out more in my mind than anything, though, is the professionalism and experience of the crew. Really top-notch operation. They seem to hit that perfect balance of professionalism and safety, and yet still allowing a reasonable degree of diving freedom. But they're very attentive crew, regardless of what staff position we're talking about. The dive guides were highly experienced, and they kept a close eye on everyone underwater, make sure that we didn't miss any of the highlights and so forth. Excellent food, just a great operation all the way around. They also have 2 tenders, 10 staterooms, again, below and in the salon and so on the Rocio del Mar. They also have just quickly looking here on the top deck, a really cool open-air barbecue area on the one evening every trip. A new sister ship to the Rocio del Mar is the Kino. Kino is a bit smaller vessel, has 5 cabins, which consist of 4 quads and 1 double. Spacious community bathrooms, so it is not ensuite facilities. It's not quite as cushy and luxurious as some of the liveaboards out there, but still very seaworthy and sturdy and comfortable. Total of 18 guests. The entire boat is air conditioned. Also has 2 inflatable tenders. The Kino is designed both as a liveaboard dive vessel, but also somewhat as a research vessel. So it has kind of a dual role. And while it does run just regular recreational dive trips, this vessel also accommodates scientific expeditions. And actually, we'll mention more about that in a moment. But there are some trips that are scheduled where there's an opportunity, if you're interested, to possibly join one of these scientific expeditions on the More on that later, but first highlighting yet another excellent and very well-established vessel in the region, the Solamar 5. And this is one of the first boats that started diving this area, not only Socorro, but Guadalupe Island as well. Very experienced crew, another very solid seaworthy boat, comfortable accommodations, excellent food, and again, they've been building an excellent reputation for a number of years and is well deserved. So just a look inside in the salon and bathrooms and cabin areas. In a nutshell, there are no bad choices in terms of the liveaboards that we represent anyway for the Socorro Islands. All are great choices.